A drunk 15-year-old girl was raped by a group of men in a park in Hamburg. The rapist stole her wallet and phone, so she was unable to call the police or her friends. There are reports that the attack was filmed and shared on WhatsApp, calling nearby friends of the rapists to come and join in. And they did. When the police examined her, they recovered DNA from 9 different men.
Asylum seeker in custody in Germany accused of the rape and murder of a 19-year-old girl in Leipzig is the same man who Greek authorities jailed for 10 years in 2013 for pushing a woman off a cliff in Corfu. She survived the attack. The murder victim, Maria Ladenberger, was a volunteer asylum seeker helper. In Greece, the suspect claimed he was Iranian and 17. He was released early as part of a programme to relieve pressure on the country's overcrowded penal system and was supposed to report regularly to police. He disappeared in December 2015 and an arrest warrant was issued. He reappeared at the German border claiming to be an unaccompanied 16-year-old Afghan and was allowed to enter and assigned a foster family.
This incident is part of a broader narrative that suggests increasing vulnerability and danger faced by women in Britain, particularly from foreign nationals. The ongoing concerns about safety are not new. Many individuals and activists have voiced their worries about the rising number of sexual crimes, claiming that a significant portion of these offences is committed by foreign nationals. This perception has intensified calls for stricter immigration policies and greater protection for British citizens.
I am here today because we're all very sad about the things that happened here.
The attacks happened during New Year's celebrations in Cologne's main square, when hundreds of young men, reportedly of Arab and North African origin, attacked scores of women. More than 500 women have filed criminal complaints, 40% of them saying they were groped and molested by men. Cologne has been on edge since last Friday, when reports surfaced that refugees who recently arrived in the country were among the suspected attackers.
One of the things that Swedes are most scared of is rape, even though it's forbidden to keep statistics on the rapist's ethnic background or religion. We know who is behind the near 1,500% increase of rapes in Sweden. Almost every day we can read in the so-called alternative media about rapes against Swedish women and girls committed by asylum seekers or other migrants from the third world. Up until a few decades ago, no one had heard about gang rape. Now it happens every week. A country that has one of the highest number of reported rapes in the world. Hundreds of so-called exclusion areas, more than 55 no-go zones where police and ambulance get stoned, and Sharia law is becoming more important than Swedish law.
In a French court, an Afghan migrant actually admitted sexually assaulting multiple children. And get this, and this is the real kicker, okay? He defended his actions as, quote, normal in his home country. Can we just have a bit more of a check on who's arriving when some of those people arriving come from countries where if you're gay, you get thrown off the top of a building, or if you're a woman, you can get stoned to death? I mean, but OK, no, but obviously it's me, isn't it? It's me. But anyway, how do we actually vet hundreds of these migrants and asylum seekers, thousands of them, that arrive on our shores every single day?
A migrant who beat the hell out of 2 female police officers is being allowed to stay and is not going to prison because, according to the judge, at the age of 20, his brain was not fully formed and therefore he's exonerated.
And they didn't mention the M word, Muslim. Because it isn't just, when you look at most of these rape gangs around the country, you've also got Somalis, you've also got, the common denominator is a particular religion. And they didn't go there. And frankly, unless you go there, you're not going to start getting to the crux of the problem. And you have to ask yourself, if people are being brought up in that culture from day one, where they think their own women must be veiled and kept indoors to be kept pure, and people who aren't are dirty and can be taken as sex slaves. Well, I wonder how all of a sudden this strange phenomenon of British Pakistani men targeting white working class girls from vulnerable backgrounds, oh, yeah, how did that magically happen? We don't need a national inquiry. We just need that to be understood and admitted and spoken about.
A girl called Ruby, who aged just 12, had been raped by known paedophile Adil Khan.
When she was just 13, she had been made pregnant by that man. And even though we all knew, even though we had DNA, even though we knew who was responsible, that man was still never charged with rape.
Ruby's suffering extended to her family. She had a sister, Amber, who had also become a victim of the rape gangs. One of those locations was an address in Fallinge, where there was a house with a list on the back of the door, with about 20 names on it. Abusers could take girls there, pass them around to be raped by multiple men, and then leave a tick by their names to show that they'd used the rape house. At the end of the week or month, they'd pay their bill for using it. It was like a paedophile honesty box. Despite the scale of the crimes, the trial was limited and just 9 men were convicted. The lead defendant said he objected to being tried by an all-white jury. The same man had once forced a 15-year-old girl to have sex with his nephew as a birthday present.
And here it is, the map of the United Kingdom with this grooming gangs scandal. You show that this is truly a national scandal. Indeed, the map's so large we can't even fit in Plymouth in the bottom, where we have found over 50 different towns and cities with some 500 convictions for this sort of abuse.
This incident is part of a broader narrative that suggests increasing vulnerability and danger faced by women in Britain, particularly from foreign nationals. The ongoing concerns about safety are not new. Many individuals and activists have voiced their worries about the rising number of sexual crimes, claiming that a significant portion of these offences is committed by foreign nationals. This perception has intensified calls for stricter immigration policies and greater protection for British citizens.
Powell is under pressure to resign tonight as leader of the House of Commons. She described the rape gang scandal, a scandal involving the systematic abuse of thousands of girls, predominantly white British girls, as a dog whistle.
But I think that the time for talking has long gone. I've started a campaign with other survivors called #TheyKnew, where we are working with a team of lawyers and barristers to criminally bring those at the top of our public institutions to justice through a private prosecution or civil action, because it's very clear to me that politicians, the government, don't want to take action.
The outcry from mothers and community leaders highlights a collective anxiety. They argue that their children are no longer safe in their own country, and they demand action. The protesters contend that the presence of gangs, often linked to foreign migrants, is increasing. They fear that unless the government addresses these issues, the safety of their children will continue to be compromised. This sentiment was poignantly articulated by several participants in the protests. Many have recounted personal stories of fear and vulnerability, emphasising the need for the government to prioritise the safety of its citizens. They believe that the influx of foreign nationals has contributed to a rise in crime rates, particularly sex crimes.
And the fact that rape prosecutions are at an all-time low, that the criminal justice system has been reviewed by the Home Affairs Committee. It found that in the year to September 2021, there were more than 63,000 rape offences recorded in England and Wales, a record high. But the number of completed rape prosecutions were at a record low, at just over 1,500. That's down from well over 5,000 4 years previously.
We also want to give women a platform to talk about their own stories, their own experiences, and keep raising awareness, because I do think this is majorly unreported, it goes unreported in the media because, again, it might not be very politically correct. And also, as I said, we want to set up chapters across the UK. So that will be women from different parts of the UK. They'll have a chapter leader, their representative, and that will be a space for them to have other women that they can talk to, support one another, and keep raising awareness of these issues. What we want to do is include the voices of women in the, the stances and the positions that we take moving forward.
But over the last year, I've realised what's actually going on. We need representation. We need people to speak out. There's not one political party here today that is in government that is, standing by the thousands of people that are here. And why is that? There's something wrong. The political class aren't getting the message. And, there's a serious issue and we just need to highlight it. And that's why I'm here today, to draw attention to it. There's so many people here. It's the most peaceful thing I've ever been at. There's been more trouble at a Munster rugby match or a tip hurling game than there is here today. It's incredibly peaceful, lots of families, and it's just...
And when you see parties like Sinn Féin and People Before Profit calling this a racist demonstration and a far-right demonstration, what do you say to that?
Well, these are just words. I'm what is far-right? I'm sick of it. Unless you've been called far-right these days, you're obviously not doing enough to represent genuine Irish people.
But our position is this country cannot facilitate any more inward migration, whether it's legal, illegal, IPAS or student or work visas. We are at capacity when our own people can't afford to buy a house or get a hospital appointment.
How long have the Islamic world been persecuting Christians?
When we conquered Jerusalem twice, Christians weren't massacred. When you lot did it, you flooded the whole city with blood.
The correct answer, was 1,400 years.
No one got killed. It was a peaceful
1,400 years. 1,400 years. That's how long Muslims and Muslim societies have been persecuting Christians.
No, that's not true.
Who was the first Muslims? Who was the first Muslim to ever persecute Christians? Who was the first Muslim to ever persecute Christians?
Christians were persecuting Christians.
The correct answer is Muhammad. That was the correct answer.
That's not true.